All right, so are you ready to dive into this? Quantum computing with Google's new Willow chip.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about tech that could revolutionize everything,
Everything.
from medicine to materials, science, and way beyond.
Absolutely.
Mind-blowing stuff, and we've got excerpts here from a document that breaks it all down.
Yeah, quantum computing is a whole different ballgame compared to the computers we use every day. It's like comparing a horse and buggy to a spaceship.
Right.
They both get you from A to B.
Yeah.
But the journey and the possibilities are on totally different scales.
I love that analogy and get that. Willow is so fast, it can perform a complex calculation in under 5 minutes.
Wow.
A calculation that would take the world's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years.
It's hard to even fathom that.
I mean, do you even know how big a septillion is? It's practically forever.
I don't even think I do.
Longer than the universe has even existed.
Yeah, the sheer speed difference really highlights the potential of quantum computing.
Totally.
But what's even more fascinating is how it achieves this speed.
Okay.
Instead of bits like classical computers, quantum computers use these things called qubits. And these qubits can exist in multiple states at once, allowing them to perform calculations in parallel.
So qubits are like the superheroes of the computing world.
Yes.
Multitasking like crazy.
Exactly.
But how does Willow actually improve on what came before it? I mean, haven't we heard about quantum computers before?
We have, and Willow represents a significant leap forward,
Okay.
particularly when it comes to coherence time.
Okay.
Think of it like a spinning top.
All right.
The longer it spins, the more stable it is.
Got it.
In quantum computing, a longer coherence time means the qubits can hold their information for longer, leading to more reliable calculations.
Okay.
And Willow's coherence time is 5 times longer than its predecessor, Sycamore.
So longer coherence time means fewer errors, but what about accuracy?
Yeah.
How good is Willow at actually manipulating these qubits to get the right answers?
That's where gate operations come in. Basically, they're like the logic gates in a classical computer, but they work on qubits instead of bits.
Right.
They're the building blocks of quantum algorithms, and Willow has doubled the fidelity of its gate operations compared to Sycamore.
Wow. So it's like Willow has gotten a major upgrade in both stability and precision.
For sure.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. Willow operates below threshold.
Right.
You know how quantum computers are notoriously prone to errors?
Yes.
Well, this seems like a big deal.
It is a major achievement.
Unpack that a bit.
So operating below threshold means that Willow can keep errors under control,
Okay.
even as the number of qubits increases. This has been one of the biggest hurdles in quantum computing for decades.
Wow.
So the fact that they've achieved this with Willow is a major breakthrough for building larger, more reliable quantum computers in the future.
So we've got this incredibly fast and reliable quantum chip.
We do.
What does that actually mean for the world? How does this move beyond the theoretical and into things that could impact, people's lives?
The potential applications are pretty mind-blowing.
All right.
Think about cracking the toughest encryption codes, designing brand new materials, or simulating complex molecules to develop life-saving drugs.
Oh, wow.
All at speeds that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago.
Yeah.
The document specifically mentions cryptography, drug discovery, climate modeling, and simulations of incredibly complex systems.
It really does feel like we're on the verge of a new technological revolution.
It does.
It's incredible to think about.
Yeah.
But hold on, before we get carried away with all the possibilities,
Sure.
we need to acknowledge that this is still early stage technology, right?
Absolutely. While Willow is a significant achievement,
Okay.
there are still some big challenges ahead.
Like what?
One of the biggest hurdles is commercial viability.
Okay.
Building and maintaining quantum computers like this is incredibly expensive and complex.
Right.
So it will take time for these machines to become more widely available and affordable.
What about the practical limitations? I mean, these quantum chips need to be kept at extremely low temperatures.
Yeah,
That's not exactly something you can just set up in your living room, right?
that's a valid point. The extreme cooling requirements are a definite logistical hurdle.
Yeah.
And then there's the security aspect.
Oh, right.
If quantum computers can crack our current encryption methods, we need to develop new quantum-resistant ways to keep our data safe.
It's a bit like opening Pandora's box, isn't it?
Kind of.
We're unleashing all this incredible potential.
Yeah,
But there are also risks and challenges we need to carefully consider.
we do.
But this isn't just a Google project, is it?
No, it's not.
There are other players in this quantum game.
Definitely. There's a global race to achieve quantum supremacy,
Oh, wow.
with countries and tech companies all over the world pouring resources into research and development.
Really?
Google's vision for quantum AI is particularly interesting, as it aims to use this technology to address some of the world's most pressing problems.
Yeah, it's inspiring to think that this could be used for good.
It is.
But I have to admit, when I saw Elon Musk's wow tweet about Willow,
Oh, yeah.
I knew this was something truly special.
He's usually pretty ahead of the curve with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a great anecdote, and their conversation about potentially putting a quantum computer cluster in space using SpaceX's Starship just highlights the level of excitement or ambition surrounding this technology.
Wow.
This feels like the start of something truly groundbreaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we dive even deeper into this,
Okay.
I want to make sure we're both on the same page.
Sure.
What are the key takeaways from this first look at Willow
Right.
that you think are most important for our listener to understand?
I'd say there are 3 major points to keep in mind.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, Willow is insanely fast, making even the most powerful supercomputers look like they're standing still. Yep. Second, its innovations in coherence time and gate operations make it significantly more reliable and precise than previous quantum computers.
Got it.
And finally, while there are still challenges to overcome, this feels like a turning point.
In what way?
We're moving beyond theory and into a future where quantum computers could reshape our world in profound ways.
I love that. Okay, so now that we've laid the groundwork,
Right.
let's shift gears and take a closer look at some of the specific ways Willow could be used to change the world as we know it.
I'm ready.
You ready for this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to explore all the possibilities. It's like we're standing on the edge of a new frontier,
Yeah,
and the view from here is incredible.
I love that.
Okay.
So let's start with something that I think a lot of people are curious about, cryptography.
Okay.
You mentioned that Willow could potentially crack the toughest encryption codes.
Right.
What does that actually mean for you, the listener?
Well, most of our online security relies on encryption algorithms that are very difficult for classical computers to crack. But quantum computers, with their ability to perform calculations in parallel,
Right.
could theoretically break these codes much faster.
Oh, wow.
This could have huge implications for everything from online banking to national security.
Okay, so it's like having a master key that can unlock almost any digital door.
Yeah.
That's both amazing and a little bit scary, right?
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Right.
While quantum computers pose a potential threat to current encryption methods,
Uh-huh.
they also offer a solution.
Oh, interesting.
Researchers are already working on developing new encryption algorithms
Right.
that are specifically designed to be quantum resistant.
So it's like an arms race
Yeah,
with quantum computers as both the weapon and the shield.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But let's move on to another exciting area, drug discovery.
Okay.
Imagine being able to design new drugs and therapies at the molecular level,
Yeah.
tailored to your specific genetic makeup.
That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it?
How would Willow actually help with that?
Currently, drug discovery is a very time-consuming and expensive process.
Right.
It involves a lot of trial and error,
Yeah.
but quantum computers could simulate the interactions of molecules at an atomic level,
Okay.
allowing scientists to design and test drugs virtually with much greater speed and accuracy.
So it's like having a virtual laboratory
Yes.
where you can experiment with different drug combinations
Right.
without having to go through all the physical testing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This could revolutionize the way we develop new treatments for everything from cancer to Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
And speaking of complex systems,
Yeah.
Willow could also have a huge impact on climate modeling.
Climate change is obviously one of the biggest challenges facing humanity.
Absolutely.
How can quantum computing help us address this issue?
Climate models are incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And even the most powerful supercomputers struggle to simulate all the variables involved.
Right.
But quantum computers could potentially process massive amounts of climate data and generate much more accurate and detailed predictions.
So that would help us then to understand and mitigate the effects of climate change.
Exactly.
That's amazing. It feels like we're talking about solving some of the world's biggest problems.
It does feel that way.
But I want to come back to something you mentioned earlier, accessibility.
Sure.
If building and maintaining these quantum computers is so expensive and complex,
Yeah.
How realistic is it that they'll become widely available anytime soon?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
One of the keys to making quantum computing more accessible is developing more user-friendly interfaces and software.
Okay.
Right now, you need a pretty specialized skill set to operate these machines.
So it's kind of like needing a PhD in quantum physics just to turn the thing on.
Well, maybe not quite that extreme.
Okay.
But you get the idea. We need to bridge the gap between the complexity of the technology and the people who want to use it. And that's something that a lot of brilliant minds are working on right now.
It's exciting to think about a future where quantum computers are as common as laptops.
It is.
But even as we work towards that goal,
Yeah.
there are still ethical considerations we need to be mindful of, right?
Absolutely. Any technology this powerful has the potential for both good and bad applications.
Right.
We need to ensure that quantum computing is developed and used responsibly and ethically.
Totally agree.
That means having open and honest conversations about the potential risks and benefits, and establishing guidelines to prevent misuse.
It's like any powerful tool that can be used to build or destroy.
That's true.
We have a responsibility to make sure it's used for the betterment of humanity.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with about the potential applications of Willow?
I think a key takeaway here is that Willow isn't just about faster calculations. It's about unlocking possibilities we could only dream of before.
Yeah.
From revolutionizing drug discovery to tackling climate change, Willow has the potential to fundamentally change how we approach some of humanity's biggest challenges.
It's inspiring to think about the positive impact this technology could have. But you've also brought up some important concerns about accessibility and ethical considerations. So where do we go from here?
Right.
What are the next steps in making this incredible technology a force for good in the world?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I think the answer lies in collaboration.
Okay.
We need researchers, developers, policymakers, and ethicists all working together to guide the development and deployment of quantum computing in a way that benefits all of humanity.
It sounds like we're talking about a whole new way of thinking about technology, not just as a tool, but as something that needs to be carefully and thoughtfully integrated into our society.
Exactly. We're at a crossroads with quantum computing.
Okay.
We have this incredible power at our fingertips, and it's up to us to decide how we use it.
It's a huge responsibility, but it's also incredibly exciting. It feels like we're on the verge of a new era. And I, for one, am eager to see what the future holds.
Me too.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Google's Willow chip, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
If you had access to a quantum computer like Willow, what problem would you want to solve?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What change would you want to see in the world? Take some time to think about it, because your idea, your vision could be the spark that ignites the next quantum revolution. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the mind-blowing world of quantum computing. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep dreaming big. All right, strap yourselves in, because today we are going deep into quantum computing. You know, you sent over some articles about the latest stuff, specifically Google's Willow chip.
Yeah.
And then also China's Xiaohong chip. And let me tell you, these things are really making a splash.
Yeah, they really are. It feels like we are really on the edge of a whole new, technological revolution.
Totally. So, to start off, let's talk about Willow. One of the articles mentioned this 5-minute miracle. Willow supposedly solved a really complex problem in just 5 minutes. That would have taken a normal supercomputer 10 septillion years. I mean, can you even imagine that time span?
It's unbelievable, really. To put it into perspective, 10 septillion years is longer than, the entire age of the universe. It's basically forever.
Wow. So what kind of problem was Willow able to solve so quickly? The article mentioned something about simulating a quantum system, but to me that all sounded kind of like science fiction.
It's actually very real, and it has huge implications for research. Imagine trying to understand, the behavior of a really complex molecule at the atomic level. There are just so many interactions happening all at the same time that it's really just impossible for normal computers to simulate accurately. But Willow, with its quantum capabilities, can kind of just cut through that complexity and provide insights that would have been impossible to obtain before with other computers.
Okay, so it's like having a superpowered microscope. That lets us see the universe at its most, basic level.
That's a great way to think about it. That kind of simulation power could revolutionize, medicine, material science, even, how we understand the universe itself.
Okay, that makes sense. But what really stood out to me was Willow's breakthrough in something called quantum error correction. The article said that this is a major hurdle in the field, something that scientists have been struggling with for decades. Can you maybe explain why that is?
Think of it like trying to build a house of cards on a windy day, right? The more cards that you add, the more unstable it becomes. And, the easier it is for everything to just collapse. Qubits, which are the building blocks of quantum computers, are incredibly sensitive to any kind of disturbance. The more qubits you have, the more likely they are to have errors. And these errors can just completely mess up a computation.
So quantum error correction is like finding a way to shield that house of cards from the wind.
Yeah, exactly. And what's remarkable about Willow is that it's not just correcting errors, it's actually suppressing them as the system scales up. This is a major breakthrough because it means we can potentially build much larger and more powerful quantum computers without being, slowed down by errors.
So Willow has 105 qubits and this game-changing error correction. Now let's talk about China's Xiaohong. It has like a whopping 504 qubits. That's almost 5 times the number of qubits in Willow. So in this like quantum showdown, is Xiaohong like the clear winner?
It's not that simple. While Xiaohong definitely has the upper hand in terms of just like the number of qubits, it doesn't quite match Willow's error correction capabilities. Think of it like this. Xiaohong is like this powerful engine, but it's, a bit rough around the edges, prone to like sputtering. Willow, on the other hand, is like a really fine-tuned machine that runs smoothly and reliably.
So it's a trade-off,
Yeah.
like raw power versus precision.
Exactly. And which chip is winning, really depends on the specific application. For some tasks, having a lot of qubits might be more important, even if there's some loss of accuracy. But for other tasks, particularly ones that need high fidelity and reliability, Willow's error correction is going to give it a huge advantage.
So it's not just about who has the biggest quantum computer. It's about who have the right tool for the job.
Precisely. And that's what makes this time in quantum computing so exciting. We're seeing a variety of approaches, each with its own pros and cons.
Like the beginning of the car.
Yeah.
Like the automobile industry, when you had all these different designs and innovations all competing.
That's a great analogy. And just like the car totally changed transportation, quantum computing has the potential to revolutionize so many things in our lives.
So we've got these two crazy pieces of tech, each one pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But what does it all mean for, like, the average person? How could quantum computing actually impact our everyday lives?
That's where things get really interesting. We're talking about potential applications in things like medicine, material science, artificial intelligence, even finance.
Let's start with medicine. You mentioned earlier that Willow's simulation capabilities could revolutionize drug discovery. Can you paint me a picture of what that might look like?
Imagine a world where we can design drugs with pinpoint accuracy, right? Targeting specific diseases at the molecular level. Imagine developing personalized therapies tailored to your specific genes. Imagine if we could make the drug development process much faster, bringing life-saving treatments to people faster than ever.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It might seem that way now, but it's closer than you think. Quantum computing has the potential to totally change healthcare as we know it.
This is all really exciting, but also sounds a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Are there any, like, risks or challenges that we should be thinking about as this technology keeps developing?
Of course. With any powerful technology, there's always the possibility for misuse. One of the biggest concerns is that it could be used to break the encryption. That protects our online data, putting our privacy and security at risk.
That's a scary thought. So is anything being done to address that potential threat?
Yes. Researchers are already working on new encryption methods that are resistant to quantum attacks. It's an ongoing race between developing quantum computers and safeguarding against their misuse.
So it's a constant battle to stay ahead.
Exactly. But I'm pretty optimistic that we can, harness the power of quantum computing for good while also, mitigating the risks. It's a challenge, but I think we can overcome it.
I'm curious to learn more about those potential risks and challenges, but I think we've covered a lot for now. Where do we go from here? What other cool things are on the horizon for quantum computing?
Well, one area that's particularly fascinating is the potential impact on artificial intelligence. It's funny, we often think of AI as this futuristic thing, but it's already a part of our daily lives in so many ways. From the algorithms that control our social media feeds to the voice assistants that we use every day, AI is quietly shaping the world around us.
That's true. And I've read that quantum computing could supercharge AI development, leading to even more powerful and sophisticated AI. Is that right?
Absolutely. You see, AI is all about pattern recognition and problem solving. And those are things that quantum computers are really good at. They can analyze huge amounts of data and identify subtle patterns that would be invisible to, normal computers.
So it's like giving AI a turbocharged brain.
Exactly. With quantum computing, we could see AI systems that can take on challenges that are just impossible right now. For instance, imagine AI that can accurately predict and, mitigate the effects of climate change, or develop new energy sources that are clean and sustainable.
Those are some big goals. But it also makes me wonder, are there any downsides to creating such powerful AI?
It's definitely something we need to think about very carefully. As we develop more powerful AI, we need to make sure that it, aligns with human values and goals. We need to build in safeguards to prevent things from going wrong.
I've heard people talk about like AI becoming too smart
Right.
and potentially becoming a threat to us. Is that something that we should really be worried about?
It's a valid concern, and one that we need to be careful about. However, I think that developing AI, even AI that's been boosted by quantum computing, should be a collaboration between humans and machines. We need to make sure that AI remains a tool that we control, and that we use it to make society better.
It sounds like we're entering like uncharted territory, right? Not just technologically,
Yeah.
but also ethically. It's almost like we're writing a new chapter in human history.
It's an exciting time to be alive, to be witnessing the birth of these technologies that could fundamentally change what it means to be human.
Speaking of which, there's another mind-boggling thing I wanted to talk about. One of the articles you sent mentioned the possibility of using quantum computers to simulate consciousness. I mean, is that even possible?
It's definitely one of the most interesting and controversial questions in quantum computing. We're still a long way from having a definitive answer, but the fact that we're even asking this question says a lot about the potential of this technology.
So what are the arguments for and against, the possibility of simulating consciousness on a quantum computer?
Well, on one side, you have the argument that consciousness is basically like an emergent property of complex systems. The idea is that if we could simulate the network of neurons in the brain with enough accuracy, consciousness might just, spontaneously arise from that simulation.
So it's like creating the right environment for consciousness rather than trying to program it directly.
Exactly. It's kind of like trying to create a virtual ecosystem. You don't program each individual organism, you create the right environment, and then life just emerges naturally.
That's a really cool concept. But what about the arguments against simulating consciousness?
Well, some people think that consciousness is more than just a complicated computation. They think it needs some fundamental thing, something about reality that we just don't understand yet. Maybe something to do with quantum mechanics itself.
So it's like saying there's some secret ingredient to consciousness that we just haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And until we fully understand consciousness, it's hard to know if we can actually create it in a machine.
It's almost like we're trying to solve a puzzle, but we don't even know what the picture is supposed to look like.
Exactly. But that's what's so exciting about this. We're pushing the limits of what we know and exploring questions that, have confused philosophers for centuries.
It's both exciting and a little bit scary to think about the possibilities. Like if we could create artificial consciousness, what would that even mean for our understanding of ourselves and like our place in the universe?
It would definitely challenge our ideas about reality and how unique human consciousness really is. It would raise big ethical questions about how we should treat these artificial beings.
It's almost too much to think about. It's like we're standing at the edge of something totally new, an era that could change what it means to be human.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? And it shows how important it is to approach this technology carefully and with a plan.
Okay, let's take a break from the philosophical stuff for a minute. We've talked a lot about what quantum computing can do, but I'm curious about the challenges. What are the biggest things that researchers are struggling with right now?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is something we've already talked about: quantum error correction. As we said, qubits are extremely sensitive to noise and interference. So keeping them stable and working together long enough to do complex calculations is really difficult.
So it's like trying to juggle a bunch of spinning plates while riding a unicycle on a tightrope.
That's a great analogy. And the more qubits you add, the harder it gets. It's a constant struggle against the laws of physics that are trying to disrupt the delicate quantum state.
Besides error correction, are there any other major challenges?
Another big one is the cost and complexity of building and running these quantum computers. They need special equipment, really, really low temperatures, and people who are very skilled at working with them.
So it's not like we'll all have quantum computers at home anytime soon.
No, not exactly, but that doesn't mean we won't see quantum computing being used in practical ways soon. Researchers are making amazing progress, and the technology is improving really quickly.
I'm curious about what the future holds for quantum computing. What breakthroughs are you most excited about?
Well, one area that I find really interesting is the development of quantum algorithms. These are algorithms that are made to run on quantum computers, and they take advantage of the unique things that quantum computers can do.
So it's like writing new software for a whole new kind of computer.
Exactly. And these quantum algorithms have the potential to totally change fields like drug discovery, material science, and solving really complex problems.
Can you give me an example of a problem that a quantum algorithm could solve in the real world?
Sure. Let's say you're a company that delivers packages, and you're trying to figure out the best routes for your trucks. That's a really complicated problem with tons of possible solutions. A normal computer might take hours or even days to find the most efficient routes, but a quantum algorithm could probably solve it much faster.
Wow, that would be amazing for any company that has to deal with logistics.
Absolutely. And that's just one example. There are so many potential uses for quantum algorithms.
Okay, I'm sold. Quantum computing is going to change everything.
Mhm.
But I have to ask, are there any downsides to this technology that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, one concern is that it could lead to people losing their jobs. As quantum computers get more advanced, they could start doing tasks that humans currently do, especially in things like data analysis and finance.
So it's like that idea from science fiction movies, where robots take over all the jobs.
It's not quite that dramatic, but there's definitely a risk of some jobs being automated. But it's important to remember that new technologies often create new jobs too. Developing and using quantum computing will need skilled workers, which will lead to new jobs in things like quantum engineering, software development, and data science.
So it's more about adapting to how things are changing and learning the skills we need for this new quantum era.
Exactly. Just like the internet changed the way we work and live, quantum computing is probably going to have a huge impact on society. It's our job to use it responsibly and make sure everyone benefits from it.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot in this deep dive, from the crazy idea of using quantum computers to simulate consciousness to the more practical uses in things like drug discovery and logistics. Is there anything else you want to add before we finish up?
Well, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet that I think you'll find interesting: cryptography.
Oh, right. I remember reading about how quantum computers could break the codes that protect our data online. That sounds like a big deal.
It is. The encryption we use today is based on math problems that are hard for normal computers to solve. But quantum computers, with their unique abilities, could potentially break those codes much faster.
So all of our important information, like financial stuff, personal data, government secrets, could be at risk.
Yeah, it's possible. It's a serious threat that we need to take seriously.
That's a scary thought. So what can we do to protect our data in this, like, post-quantum world?
Thankfully, researchers are already working on new ways to encrypt data that are resistant to quantum attacks. These post-quantum cryptography methods are designed to be safe even against the most powerful quantum computers that we can imagine.
So it's like an arms race. As quantum computers get stronger, we need better encryption to stay safe.
Exactly. It's a game of cat and mouse, but it's a game we need to win because the stakes are really high.
It sounds like things are about to change drastically in the world of cybersecurity.
They are. And it's not just about keeping data safe. Quantum cryptography also has the potential for new ways to communicate securely that are impossible to eavesdrop on.
Wait, really? How does that work?
It's based on the principles of quantum mechanics. Basically, any attempt to listen in on a quantum communication would change the message, which would alert the sender and receiver that someone's trying to spy on them.
So it's like having a seal on your message that can't be broken.
Exactly. It's a level of security that's just not possible with the ways we communicate now.
This is all super interesting. But my brain is feeling a little overloaded. I think we need to take a break and let all this information sink in.
I agree. It's a lot to process. But that's what makes this field so fascinating. It's always pushing the limits of what we know and making us think about the world in new ways.
All right, I think I've rebooted. My quantum circuits are back online. That was intense.
Yeah, it really was a lot to take in. Quantum computing is one of those things that always feels like it's on the verge of some big breakthrough.
You know, before we got into cryptography, you were about to tell me about some of the breakthroughs in quantum computing that you're most excited about.
Oh, yeah. Where do I even start? There's so much cool stuff happening right now. One thing that I'm really enthusiastic about is the development of quantum sensors.
Quantum sensors, what are those and why are you so excited about them?
Imagine a sensor that's so sensitive that it can pick up the tiniest gravitational waves passing through space, or a medical scanner that can see individual molecules inside your body. That's the potential of quantum
Well, that
sensors.
sounds incredible. How do they work?
They use the weird and counterintuitive rules of quantum mechanics to achieve a level of sensitivity and accuracy that's just not possible with regular sensors. For example, some quantum sensors use entangled particles to measure tiny changes in magnetic or gravitational fields.
Okay, I'm getting a little lost in the quantum details. Can you give me a real-world example of how these quantum sensors could be used?
Sure, one promising use is in medical imaging. Imagine a brain scanner that can detect the very first signs of Alzheimer's disease, or a heart monitor that can tell if someone's going to have a heart attack before it even happens. That's the kind of amazing potential we're talking about.
Wow. So we're talking about not just diagnosing diseases more accurately, but maybe even preventing them altogether.
Exactly. And it's not just medicine. Quantum sensors could change things in navigation,
Mhm.
environmental monitoring, even space exploration.
Speaking of space exploration, I read that some people think quantum computers could help us with one of the biggest problems in space travel, communication over vast distances. Is that true?
It is. One of the fundamental limits of regular communication is the speed of light. It takes time for signals to travel across the huge distances of space, which makes real-time communication very difficult. But quantum communication could potentially solve that problem.
Wait, faster than the speed of light. Isn't that impossible?
It's not about going faster than light. It's about using a strange thing called quantum entanglement. When two particles are entangled, no matter how far apart they are, they're connected. Any change to one particle immediately affects the other one, no matter how far away it is.
Okay, that sounds like something out of Star Trek. But how could we actually use entanglement for communication?
It's still early days. But the idea is to use entangled particles to send information instantly across huge distances. It's like having a telepathic connection between 2 points in space.
So we could talk to astronauts on Mars, or
Bro,
even further out in the solar system in real time.
that's the ultimate goal. It would completely change space exploration and open up a whole new world of scientific discovery.
This is all so mind-blowing. It feels like we're on the edge of a new technological revolution.
It really does. Quantum computing is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, opening up new possibilities in science, medicine, and even our understanding of the universe.
As we explore the potential of quantum computing, it's important to remember that it's not just about technology. It's also about the human side of things. How do we make sure this powerful technology is used ethically and for the good of everyone?
That's a really important question. We need to have open and honest discussions about the ethical implications of quantum computing. We need to involve people from all walks of life in shaping the future of this technology, and we need to prioritize human well-being as we explore this new territory.
Well said. It's a reminder that even the most advanced technologies are ultimately tools, and it's up to us as a society to decide how those tools are used.
Exactly. It's a responsibility we all share.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our journey into the world of quantum computing for today. I'm feeling inspired and a little overwhelmed by all the possibilities.
I know what you mean. It's a lot to process. But that's what's so great about quantum computing. It keeps us guessing, it keeps us exploring, and it keeps us pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Before we say goodbye, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just say, stay curious, keep learning, and never stop asking questions. The world of quantum computing is full of wonder and possibility. It's just waiting to be discovered.
That's a great way to end this. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into quantum computing. Until next time, keep exploring.
It's funny, we think about AI as this like way off in the future thing, but it's already, all around us in so many ways. From those algorithms that like curate our social media feeds to the voice assistants that help us get through the day, AI is kind of quietly shaping the world as we know it.
Yeah, for sure. And I've read that quantum computing could, like, make AI development go into overdrive,
Yeah.
leading to even, like, more powerful, more sophisticated AI. Is that right?
Absolutely. See, AI at its core, it's all about patterns and problem solving. And those are tasks that, quantum computers excel at. They can analyze these massive data sets and find those hidden patterns that, regular computers would totally miss.
So it's like giving AI a super brain boost.
Exactly. With quantum computing, we could see AI systems taking on these challenges that are just like beyond our reach right now. For instance, imagine AI that can, predict and then like deal with climate change or come up with new energy sources that are like clean and sustainable.
Those are some pretty big goals. But it also makes me wonder, are there any like downsides to creating such powerful AI?
It's something we need to think about carefully, that's for sure. As we develop AI that's more and more powerful, we have to make sure it, lines up with human values, human goals. We need to build in like safeguards to stop things from going off the rails.
I've heard people, worried about AI becoming too smart
Mm.
and maybe even like posing a threat to humanity. Is that something we should actually be worried about?
It's a valid concern and one we should, approach cautiously. However, I believe that AI development, even AI that's boosted by quantum computing, should really be a team effort, humans and machines working together. We need to make sure that AI remains like a tool that we control, that we use to, benefit society.
It's like we're entering this like totally unknown territory, right? Not just technologically, but also ethically. It's almost like we're writing, a new chapter in the history of humanity.
It really is an exciting time to be alive, isn't it? To be here, witnessing the birth of these technologies that could change what it means to be human.
Speaking of which, there's this other mind-blowing concept that I wanted to touch on. One of the articles mentioned that quantum computers could potentially be used to like simulate consciousness. Is that even remotely possible?
It's definitely one of the most, intriguing and controversial questions in the field of quantum computing. We don't have a clear answer yet, but the fact that we're even asking this question speaks volumes about the potential of this technology.
So what are the arguments for and against the possibility of, simulating consciousness using a quantum computer?
On the one hand, you have the argument that consciousness is like an emergent property of complex systems, meaning that if we could like simulate the web of neurons in the brain with enough accuracy, consciousness might just, kind of pop up from that simulation.
So it's less about trying to like program consciousness directly and more about creating the right conditions for it to just emerge.
Exactly. It's kind of like trying to build like a virtual ecosystem, You don't program each individual organism, you create the right environment, and then boom, life just like appears naturally.
That's a fascinating concept. What about the arguments against simulating consciousness?
Well, some folks believe that consciousness is more than just a really complex computation. They think it needs some like fundamental aspect of reality that we don't even get yet. Maybe even something connected to, like quantum mechanics itself.
So it's like saying there's this like missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to consciousness
Yeah.
that we haven't found yet.
Yeah, you could say that. Until we fully understand what consciousness is, it's really hard to say whether or not we can, recreate it in a machine.
It's almost like we're trying to like solve a puzzle, but we don't have the picture on the box to guide us.
Precisely. But that's what makes this field so exciting, right? We're pushing the limits of what we know and exploring questions that have been around for like centuries.
It's both exciting and a little terrifying to think about, what this could all mean. Like, if we could create artificial consciousness, what would that even mean for like our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe?
It would definitely challenge our ideas about reality and the uniqueness of human consciousness. It would raise some pretty major ethical questions about our responsibility to these artificial beings.
It's almost too much to wrap my head around. Like, we're standing on the edge of something completely new, an era that could like redefine what it means to be human.
It's a humbling thought for sure. And it just shows how crucial it is that we approach this technology wisely and carefully.
Okay, let's step back from like the big philosophical stuff for a sec. We've talked a lot about the potential of quantum computing, but I'm also curious about, the challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles that researchers are facing right now?
Well, one of the biggest, as we've already touched on, is quantum error correction. Like we said, qubits are super sensitive to noise and interference. Keeping them, stable and working together long enough to do these complex calculations is a huge engineering challenge.
So it's kind of like trying to juggle a bunch of spinning plates while riding a unicycle on a tightrope.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. And, the more qubits you add, the harder it gets. It's a constant battle against, like, the laws of physics that are trying to disrupt that delicate quantum state.
Aside from, error correction, are there other big challenges?
Yeah. Another major one is the cost and complexity of, actually building and running these quantum computers. They require really specialized equipment, extremely low temperatures, and a workforce with some very specific skills.
So it's not like we're all going to have quantum computers on our desks anytime soon.
Not quite yet, but that doesn't mean we won't see, practical uses for quantum computing in the near future. Researchers are making incredible strides, and the technology is, advancing at a really rapid pace.
I'm curious, what does the future hold for quantum computing? What breakthroughs are you, personally excited about?
Well, one area that really intrigues me is the development of quantum algorithms. These are algorithms specifically designed to, run on these quantum computers, and they really take advantage of the unique capabilities that these computers offer.
So it's like writing a whole new kind of software for a completely different kind of machine.
Exactly. And these quantum algorithms have the potential to revolutionize fields like, drug discovery, materials science, optimization problems, you name it.
Can you give me an example of a real world problem that a quantum algorithm could help solve?
Sure. Let's say you have, a logistics company, and they're trying to figure out, the most efficient delivery routes for their fleet of trucks. That's a really complex problem with, a ton of possible solutions. A regular computer might take, hours, maybe even days, to find the best routes. But a quantum algorithm could potentially solve that problem in a fraction of the time.
Wow, that would be a game changer for any company dealing with logistics.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's just one example. The possibilities with these quantum algorithms are pretty much endless.
Okay, I'm convinced quantum computing is going to change the world.
Yeah.
But, I have to ask, are there any downsides to this technology that we haven't really touched on yet?
Well, one concern that often comes up is the potential for job displacement. As quantum computers get more and more sophisticated, they could, start automating tasks that are currently done by humans, particularly in fields like data analysis, financial modeling.
So it's kind of like that classic sci-fi idea of, robots taking over our jobs.
It's not quite that dramatic, but, there's a risk of some jobs being automated. But it's important to remember that, with new technologies, we often see new jobs being created as well. The development and implementation of quantum computing is going to require, a skilled workforce, leading to new opportunities in fields like quantum engineering, software development, data science, all that.
So it's more about adapting to the changing job market and learning those new skills that are going to be needed for this quantum era.
Exactly. Just like how the internet, revolutionized the way we work and live, quantum computing will probably have a profound impact on society. It's really up to us to use it responsibly and make sure that everyone benefits from it.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from that mind-blowing idea of quantum computers, simulating consciousness, to those, more practical applications in fields like drug discovery and logistics. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap things up?
There's one topic we haven't really discussed that I think might be particularly relevant to your interests: cryptography.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about how quantum computers could potentially, crack the encryption that protects our online data. That sounds like a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. The encryption algorithms we use today, they're based on, math problems that are really difficult for classical computers to solve. But quantum computers, with their, unique capabilities, could potentially break those codes much faster.
All of our, sensitive information, financial transactions, personal data, government secrets, all that could be, vulnerable.
Potentially, yeah. It's a serious threat that we need to take seriously.
That's a pretty sobering thought. What can we do to protect our data in this, post-quantum world?
Fortunately, researchers are already working on developing new encryption methods that are resistant to these quantum attacks, these post-quantum cryptography algorithms. They're designed to be secure even against the most powerful quantum computers that, we can imagine.
So it's like an arms race then. As quantum computers become more powerful, we need to develop stronger encryption to stay ahead of the threat.
Exactly. It's a constant game of cat and mouse, but it's a game that we absolutely have to win. The stakes are too high.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a major shift in the world of cybersecurity.
We are, and it's not just about, protecting data. Quantum cryptography also has the potential to create new, forms of secure communication that are basically impossible to eavesdrop on.
Wait, really? How's that even possible?
It's based on the principles of quantum mechanics. Essentially, any attempt to, intercept a quantum communication would inevitably disrupt the message itself, alerting both the sender and the receiver that, someone's trying to snoop.
So it's like having a seal on your message that's unbreakable.
Exactly. It's a level of security that's just not possible with, our current communication methods.
This is all incredibly fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my brain needs a little break. Let all this information sink in for a bit.
I agree. It's a lot to take in, but that's what makes this field so captivating, right? It's constantly pushing the boundaries of what we know and challenging us to think in completely new ways.
All right. I think I'm back online. It was a lot to process, but I think my quantum circuits have recharged.
I know what you mean. Quantum computing is a field that never stops. It feels like there's always a new groundbreaking discovery around the corner.
Before we got into cryptography, you were about to tell me about the breakthroughs you're most excited about.
Oh, right. Well, there's so many, it's hard to choose. But one area that I'm really into right now is quantum sensors.
Quantum sensors, what are those?
Imagine a sensor so sensitive it could detect those tiny gravitational waves moving through space, or a medical scanner that can image individual molecules inside you. That's what quantum sensors could do.
That sounds pretty amazing. How do they even work?
They use the strange laws of quantum mechanics to reach a level of sensitivity and precision that's just impossible for normal sensors. For instance, some quantum sensors use entangled particles to measure tiny changes in magnetic fields.
Okay, I'm getting a little lost in the quantum weeds here. Can you give me a real-world example of how these quantum sensors could be used?
Absolutely. Medical imaging is a good example. Imagine a brain scanner that could spot those early signs of Alzheimer's, or a heart monitor that can predict a heart attack before it happens.
So we're not just talking about diagnosing diseases more accurately. We're talking about preventing them.
Exactly. And it goes beyond medicine. Quantum sensors could revolutionize navigation, environmental monitoring, even space exploration.
Speaking of space exploration, I read that some scientists believe quantum computers could solve one of the biggest challenges of space travel, communicating over vast distances.
That's right. One of the biggest limits of normal communication is the speed of light. It takes time for signals to travel across space, so real-time communication is really difficult. But quantum communication could potentially get around that.
Wait, faster than the speed of light? I thought that was impossible.
It's not about going faster than light. It's about using this strange thing called quantum entanglement. You see, when two particles are entangled, it doesn't matter how far apart they are, they're still connected. If you change one particle, it instantly affects the other one, even if they're miles apart.
Okay, now that sounds like something out of Star Trek. But how could we actually use entanglement for communication?
It's still early, but the idea is to use these entangled particles to transmit information instantly, no matter the distance. Imagine a telepathic link across space.
So we could have real-time conversations with astronauts on Mars, or even further out in the solar system.
That's the dream. It would completely change space exploration.
This is all so mind-blowing.
It really is. Quantum computing is changing what we thought was possible.
As we talk about all this, it's important to remember that it's not just about the technology itself. It's also about us. How do we make sure we use this powerful technology ethically and for the good of everyone?
That's a really important point. We need to have these open discussions about the ethical side of quantum computing. We need everyone's input. And we always need to put human well-being first.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. Quantum computing is a powerful tool. And like any tool, it's up to us to use it responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into quantum computing. It's been a wild ride.
It has.
Until next time, keep exploring. All right, so today we're going to be diving into Google's Willow quantum chip.
Okay.
You've sent over some really interesting excerpts about this thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, even I'm a little geeky about this one.
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard the hype about quantum computing, right?
Right.
The promises of solving problems that would take our best supercomputers, like billions of years.
Yeah.
But are we actually getting closer to that reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The potential has always been there.
Right.
But the reality is that building these complex systems without introducing a mountain of errors has been the main hurdle.
Okay, so then walk me through this.
Sure.
What makes Willow so different?
Okay.
Because from what I'm reading, this isn't just a minor upgrade.
Right.
It feels like a totally different ballgame.
It really is.
Yeah.
You're right to be impressed.
Okay.
What Google has achieved with Willow is a significant reduction in error rates.
Oh.
And not just by a little, we're talking exponentially better as the chip scales up.
Okay.
This is what's been holding the field back.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to increase the number of qubits
Right.
without the error rate spiraling out of control.
So it's not just about having more qubits.
It's not just about having more.
It's about them actually working together reliably.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like having a million super fast calculators that keep giving you the wrong answer.
Precisely.
Right.
And that's where the concept of operating below threshold comes in.
Yeah.
Now, this threshold refers to a theoretical point,
Okay.
where adding more qubits actually leads to a decrease in the overall error rate.
Wow.
This was proposed by researchers decades ago,
Really?
but Google's Willow is the first to demonstrate this principle in action.
Okay, hold on. That's kind of mind-blowing. So adding more qubits makes it less error-prone.
Yeah.
How does that even work?
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
Each qubit interacts with its neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And these interactions can introduce errors. But with Willow's architecture, these interactions are managed in a way that actually helps to correct errors as more qubits are added.
Yeah.
It's like having a built-in error checking mechanism
Okay.
that gets stronger as the system grows.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get it.
Good.
So more qubits, fewer errors.
Right.
But what does that actually translate to in terms of real-world performance?
Well, the benchmark tests they run are pretty astonishing.
Okay.
Willow is able to complete a complex computation in under 5 minutes.
Wow.
The same computation would take a classical supercomputer billions of years.
Billions of years.
It's a staggering difference.
Wow. Okay, that's not just a speed bump that's like inventing warp drive.
Yeah.
But what kind of computation was it exactly?
Right.
Was it just some arbitrary test, or does it actually demonstrate something meaningful?
This wasn't just any test.
Okay.
It's called random circuit sampling.
Okay.
And it's specifically designed to assess a quantum computer's ability to handle problems that are essentially impossible for classical computers to solve.
So like problems that would take billions of years.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It showcases Willow's potential to tackle entirely new classes of problems.
Okay, color me impressed.
Mm-hmm.
So if Willow can do that in 5 minutes, what else can it do?
Okay.
Are we talking about curing diseases and solving world hunger next week?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
While these results are incredibly exciting,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to remember that practical applications are still likely years away.
All right.
We're talking about incredibly complex systems here,
Yeah.
and there are still challenges to overcome.
Okay, so let's talk about those challenges.
Sure.
Because I know the source material mentioned some limitations.
Yeah.
What are the biggest hurdles standing between Willow and, let's say, revolutionizing drug discovery?
One of the major challenges is the need for further development in hardware reliability.
Okay.
Willow is a huge step forward, but the technology still needs to mature.
Okay.
Think of it like the early days of computers. They were large, expensive, and prone to breaking down.
Right.
Quantum computers are in a similar phase right now.
So we need to make them more robust
We do.
and less prone to errors,
Yes,
even beyond what Willow has achieved.
exactly.
Okay.
And the other big challenge is the development of software algorithms
Right.
that can truly harness the power of quantum computing.
Yeah, because the programming is totally different, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Writing code for these machines is completely different from traditional programming.
Mm.
We need new tools, new languages, and
Mhm.
new ways of thinking about computation.
So it's like having this incredibly powerful engine,
Yes,
but we're still figuring out how to build a car around it.
that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
The potential is there,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to develop the infrastructure and expertise to truly unlock it.
All right. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Okay.
We've got this amazing new chip that can perform calculations at mind-boggling speeds. But there are still hurdles to overcome before we see practical applications.
Right.
It's like we're on the cusp of a new era,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not quite there yet.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
And it's important to remember that this isn't just a Google thing.
Right.
We're talking about a global race for quantum supremacy,
Oh, wow.
with countries and companies around the world investing heavily in research and development.
Right, because the potential impact of this technology is so vast.
It is.
We're not just talking about faster computers.
Right.
We're talking about potentially revolutionizing entire industries.
Absolutely.
So with all this global competition, where does Google's Willow fit into the picture?
That's a good question.
Are they leading the pack, or are other players hot on their heels?
Willow definitely puts Google at the forefront of the field.
Okay.
They've made a significant breakthrough in terms of scalability and error correction, which are essential for building practical quantum computers. But other companies like IBM and Microsoft are also making significant strides.
Wow, so it's a real race.
It is!
Yeah.
It's a very dynamic and competitive landscape.
So it sounds like we're in for an exciting ride.
Definitely.
This is one of those moments in history where we can sense that the world is on the verge of something truly transformative.
It is.
But as we've discussed, there's still a long way to go
Yeah.
before quantum computers become as commonplace as our laptops and smartphones.
That's right.
Yeah.
And while we wait for the technology to mature, it's crucial to keep in mind that the development of quantum computing raises some important questions about its potential impact on society.
Okay, so we're not just talking about faster calculations and new materials.
We're not.
There's a whole other layer to this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, the ability to break encryption,
Right.
which we rely on for everything from secure online transactions to protecting sensitive information.
Wait, so you're saying that quantum computers could potentially render our current cybersecurity measures obsolete?
That's a very real possibility.
Wow.
And it's something that governments and security experts are taking very seriously.
Yeah, I bet.
But there's a lot of research going on in the field of post-quantum cryptography,
Okay.
which aims to develop new encryption methods that are resistant to attacks from quantum computers.
So it's a race against time,
It is.
developing quantum-proof security measures before the bad guys figure out how to exploit the technology for malicious purposes.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
And it's not just about cybersecurity.
Right.
We also need to think about the potential impact on employment.
Yeah,
If quantum computers can automate tasks that are currently done by humans,
right.
what does that mean for the workforce?
So we're not just talking about potential benefits.
No.
We're also talking about potential disruptions.
Right.
And how do we ensure that those disruptions don't lead to greater inequality?
These are all incredibly important questions that we need to start grappling with now as the technology is still developing. We need to be proactive in addressing the potential societal implications of quantum computing and ensure that it's used for good.
This is starting to feel a lot bigger than just a cool new chip.
It is.
This is about the future of technology, the future of society, maybe even the future of humanity.
It is indeed a momentous time.
Wow.
And as we delve deeper into the capabilities and implications of Willow, I think you'll agree that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I think you're right.
There's so much more to explore, so much more to understand.
Well, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Good.
I'm ready to go deeper into this rabbit hole.
Okay.
Let's dive into some more specific examples of how Willow's capabilities could translate into real-world solutions.
All right.
I'm particularly fascinated by the potential impact on drug discovery.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through that in more detail?
Absolutely. Let's start with understanding how quantum computers could revolutionize the way we design and develop new drugs. So we're talking about drug discovery. The traditional process is painstakingly slow and expensive.
Right.
It involves a lot of trial and error, testing countless molecules to see if they have the desired effect.
Yeah, and even with all the advances in computing power and AI we have now, it still feels like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
But imagine if you could simulate the interactions between a drug molecule and its target protein at an atomic level.
Okay.
Quantum computers could allow us to do just that with a level of precision and speed that's simply impossible with classical computers.
Hold on. Break that down for me.
Sure.
How does a quantum computer actually simulate something as complex as molecular interaction?
Okay, so remember how we talked about qubits being able to exist in multiple states at once?
Right, yeah.
This allows them to represent the complex quantum behavior of electrons and atoms within molecules.
Okay.
Essentially, a quantum computer can model the quantum world directly, allowing for much more accurate simulation.
So instead of just crunching numbers based on probabilities, a quantum computer can actually mimic the way molecules behave in the real world.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this ability to simulate molecular interactions with such fidelity
Yeah.
could revolutionize drug development.
Wow.
Imagine being able to design drugs that perfectly target specific proteins,
Okay.
minimizing side effects and maximizing effectiveness.
Wow. So we're talking about personalized medicine.
Exactly.
Tailored treatments for individual patients based on their unique genetic makeup.
That's the ultimate goal.
Wow.
And it's not just limited to drug design.
Okay.
Quantum simulations could also help us understand complex biological processes
Right.
at a fundamental level,
Yeah.
leading to breakthroughs in disease diagnosis and treatment.
Okay, this is all starting to sound like science fiction in a
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah, it is.
But let's go back to the challenges for a second.
Sure.
You mentioned hardware reliability and software development.
Right.
What are the specific hurdles that need to be overcome in those areas?
Well, on the hardware front,
Yeah.
one of the big challenges is maintaining the stability of these incredibly sensitive quantum states.
Okay.
Even the slightest environmental disturbance can cause errors.
Oh, wow.
So the systems need to be extremely well isolated and controlled.
So it's not just about building the chip itself.
It's not just about the chip.
It's about creating a whole environment to keep it functioning properly.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
these environments are not easy to come by.
Right.
Right now, most quantum computers require extremely low temperatures, close to absolute zero, to operate.
Wow.
That kind of cooling power is expensive and energy intensive.
Okay, so that's a pretty big logistical hurdle.
It is.
What of the software side?
Okay.
You mentioned that programming these machines is completely different from traditional coding.
It is.
Can you elaborate on that?
Of course.
Okay.
Quantum algorithms are fundamentally different from classical algorithms. They leverage the unique properties of qubits, like superposition and entanglement,
Okay.
to perform calculations in ways that are simply impossible on classical computers.
Okay, so we need entirely new ways of thinking about how to write code for these machines.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a whole new paradigm of programming.
Right.
And right now, there's a shortage of people with the expertise to develop these quantum algorithms.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So it's not just about building the hardware, it's about building the talent pool as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We need more researchers, more engineers, and more programmers who understand the principles of quantum computing and can translate that knowledge into real-world applications.
So it sounds like we're still in the early stages of a very long journey.
We are.
But the destination is so compelling.
Yeah.
The potential to cure diseases, develop new materials, solve complex problems that are currently beyond our reach, that it's worth all the investment and effort.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And while it's important to acknowledge the challenges, we should also celebrate the progress that's been made. Willow is a testament to human ingenuity and our relentless pursuit of scientific advancement.
You know, it's easy to get lost in the technical details,
Yeah.
but you've really captured the essence of what makes this so exciting.
Good.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible and using technology to make the world a better place.
That's exactly what drives me,
Right.
and I think it's what drives many people in this field.
Right.
There's a sense of wonder, a sense of possibility
Yeah.
that comes with working on something that could truly change the course of history.
Okay, before we get too carried away with our visions of a quantum-powered utopia,
Okay.
let's bring things back down to earth for a minute.
All right.
I know we touched on the potential for quantum computers to break encryption earlier,
Right.
but I want to dig into that a bit deeper.
Okay.
Just how serious is this threat?
Yeah.
And what are we doing to mitigate it?
It's a very real threat,
Okay.
and one that shouldn't be underestimated. As quantum computers become more powerful, they could potentially crack the encryption algorithms that underpin much of our digital infrastructure.
So everything from online banking to government communications could be vulnerable?
Potentially. Yes.
Wow.
That's why there's a lot of research being done in the field of post-quantum cryptography.
Huh?
The goal is to develop new encryption methods that are resistant to attacks from both classical and quantum computers.
Okay, so it's like an arms race.
It is.
We need to stay one step ahead of those who might use this technology for malicious purposes.
Exactly.
But are we making progress in this area?
Yes, there are some promising developments.
Okay.
Researchers are exploring a variety of approaches, including lattice-based cryptography,
Okay.
code-based cryptography, and multivariate cryptography.
Okay.
These methods are based on mathematical problems that are thought to be difficult for even quantum computers to solve.
That sounds encouraging,
Yeah.
but I imagine it's not as simple as just coming up with new algorithms. we need to actually implement these new methods across the entire digital landscape, right?
Which, right.
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking
Right.
that will require collaboration between governments, industry, and academia.
Wow.
We need to develop standards, update existing systems, and ensure that everyone is using these new quantum-resistant encryption methods.
So it's not just a technical challenge, it's a logistical and organizational challenge as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it's a challenge that we need to address urgently.
Right.
We can't wait until quantum computers are readily available to start thinking about these issues.
Right.
We need to be proactive and prepare for the post-quantum world now.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of the scale of the task ahead.
Yeah.
It's not just about building faster computers. It's about rethinking our entire approach to cybersecurity.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And it's not just about cybersecurity.
Right.
We also need to consider the broader societal implications of quantum computing.
Right. We talked about potential job displacement earlier.
Yeah.
Are there other ethical considerations that we need to be thinking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, how do we ensure that access to this technology is equitable?
Okay.
How do we prevent it from being used to exacerbate existing inequalities or create new ones?
So we need to be thinking about the social and ethical implications of this technology from the very beginning.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it and what kind of future we want to create.
These are big questions.
They are.
And I don't think there are any easy answers.
No.
But it's clear that we need to start having these conversations now before it's too late.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And as we continue our exploration of Willow and its potential impact, I think you'll see that these ethical considerations are just as important as the technical advancements themselves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From Willow's incredible speed to the potential for revolutionizing drug discovery and even the challenges of keeping our data secure in a post-quantum world.
Yeah.
It feels like we've only scratched the surface.
We really have.
Yeah.
And I think what's most striking is how this one technological advancement, this chip called Willow, has opened up so many avenues for exploration.
Yeah.
It's not just about building a faster computer.
Right.
It's about reimagining what's possible.
You know, it's kind of humbling, right?
It is.
We're talking about harnessing the fundamental laws of the universe to solve problems that have plagued humanity for centuries.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the power of human curiosity and our drive to understand the world around us. We've come so far from the early days of computing when machines took up entire rooms that could barely perform basic calculations.
And now we have this tiny chip
Right.
that can potentially unlock solutions to some of the most complex challenges we face.
Yeah.
From climate change to disease.
Absolutely.
It's like we're entering a new era of scientific discovery.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And as with any new era, there are uncertainties. Sure. There are risks. Right. But there's also immense potential for progress. It's up to us to navigate this new landscape responsibly and ensure that these advancements benefit all of humanity. Okay, so let's talk about that responsibility. Okay. We've discussed some of the potential downsides like cybersecurity threats and job displacement.
Right.
What can we do as individuals and as a society to mitigate those risks and ensure that quantum computing is used for good? Well, first and foremost, we need to keep talking about these issues.
Okay.
The more awareness we raise,
Yeah.
the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions about the development and deployment of this technology.
So it's about education,
Yes.
about engaging in thoughtful dialogue, and about demanding transparency from those who are developing and controlling this technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that the conversation about quantum computing isn't confined to academic circles and tech companies.
Right.
This is something that will ultimately affect all of us. So we all need to have a voice in shaping its future.
So what can our listeners do? How can they get involved in this conversation?
There are so many ways.
Okay.
Stay informed about the latest developments in quantum computing.
Okay.
Read articles, listen to podcasts, attend lectures, and follow experts in the field.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge assumptions.
Right.
The more we understand about this technology, the better equipped we'll be to guide its development in a positive direction.
So knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about passively consuming information, right?
Right.
We need to be active participants in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Engage with your elected officials and advocate for policies that promote responsible innovation and address the potential societal implications of quantum computing. support organizations that are working to advance research and education in this field.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of this technological revolution. But I think you've provided some really practical and empowering advice.
Good.
It's about staying informed, engaging in dialogue, and taking action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's about remembering that technology is ultimately a tool.
Right.
It's up to us to decide how we want to use it and what kind of future we want to create.
That's a really powerful message.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Google's Willow chip,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a sense of both excitement and responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pivotal moment in human history.
It is.
And we all have a role to play in shaping the quantum future.
Well said. And I want to thank you for guiding us through this fascinating exploration.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure sharing my insights with you and our listeners.
The pleasure was all mine.
Good.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, stay curious.
Yeah.